A few guys have sent me an article by a magazine or website called stuff.nz, stuff.New Zealand, which refers to Joseph Parker's next opponent. First and foremost, if you sent me that, Twitter, Facebook, email, thanks very much. Appreciate the contact. I've had a discussion with 2 or 3 people about who the next opponent could be, and I wanted to talk through a few options. We know that the fight's going to be in Samoa. We know that it's going to be early next year, January, I believe. So first and foremost, good that they're keeping this guy active. Nice to see activity with a heavyweight prospect. We also know they've said that the opponent is going to be a southpaw. So what this article has done is pulled together the top 10 southpaws based on their BoxRec ranking. I just want to run through them briefly and talk about who is likely the next opponent going to be. So the top southpaw on BoxRec is Tony Thompson. Now, I think it's very, very, very unlikely that Tony Thompson is going to be Joseph Parker's next opponent, because Thompson's already engaged against Malik Scott. You know, hypothetically, Thompson's going to fight Scott in October. He could come out of that fight and be ready for January. Do I see Team Parker ready to fight Tony Thompson yet? No. Do I think they'd take the risk of organising him as an opponent whilst he's got another fight, a relatively high-profile fight? Also, no. I don't think it's Tony Thompson at this stage. Secondly, Antonio Tarver. Again, Antonio Tarver, whilst he is beatable, I don't necessarily see Team Parker taking him at this stage. I think he's probably still a fight away. You know, he's been operating at a higher level, and even though he's old, he's a very experienced operator. Also, whilst he doesn't have a fight in the diary, I think Tarver is still viewing himself as a world title challenger as opposed to an opponent. You know, I think Tarver will be more likely to wait and hope to get a fight with a Deontay Wilder, for example, or even a Vladimir Klitschko in a mandatory, rather than fighting young up-and-comers like Parker. There's also some drug scandal involving Tarver at present. I think he tested positive, which would put his participation in doubt. The third highest ranked southpaw, Ruslan Chagayev. It won't be Chagayev because he's got obligations. He's got mandatories. You know, I think it's Lucas Brown, Freza Quendo, like he's in that mix-up at present, and I don't think he's allowed to fight, without fighting these guys. Fourth, Arthur Spilka. Spilka is a guy who's recently signed with Al Heyman. He's put together a few back-to-back wins. He's a guy who's going to be managed towards a world title shot. You know, Heyman runs Deontay Wilder, Heyman runs Spilka. I'm sure at some point, if both guys keep winning, they'll clash. You know, Spilka's being used to fight journeyman at present. He's not going to be taken out to Samoa and used to fight a young prospect. I don't see Spilka being an option. Luis Ortiz is ranked number 5, the Cuban heavyweight. Again, Luis Ortiz already engaged, supposedly got a fight against Bryant Jennings. So, presumably, that rules that fight out. Number 6. 6 is the first possible option on the list, as I see it. Mike Perez. Last seen losing by first round knockout to Alexander Povetkin. Now, this fight could happen. I don't think it's likely, but it's an option. You know, Mike Perez hasn't fought for some time. He's shown a willingness to travel before. He's coming off a loss, and maybe he is at that stage where he would be used as a opponent, I guess you could say. I personally think Mike Perez is a skilled fighter. I think he's underrated. He did terribly last time out. But, you can get caught cold in fights, and I still think Mike Perez is a fight or two off for Joseph Parker. Essentially, whilst I think Mike Perez ticks some of the boxes as an opponent, I don't think he offers the risk-reward to Joseph Parker as an opponent. You know, beating Mike Perez, do you get a lot of praise for that after he got stopped in 1 round last time out? Probably not. But if you lose to Mike Perez, which you could do because he's an excellent fighter, it doesn't look good at all. So I think it's unlikely to be Mike Perez, although I acknowledge he's the first possibility. Number 7, Amir Mansour. Now, Amir Mansour's just come off a tough fight with Gerald Washington, which actually went the distance and ended up in a draw. He is a possible. You know, Amir Mansour is a possible. For me, I wonder, he's just come off a big fight. Would he be ready to commit to another one straight away? Wouldn't he be more likely to try and get a rematch with the likes of Washington and, you know, stay in that American heavyweight circuit rather than Joseph Parker? I think Amir Mansour is more likely than Mike Perez, as I think he's a lower level of fighter. And I think Joseph Parker would have the beating of Mansour more comfortably than he would of Perez. Having said that, Mansour would still be a relatively big leap from Cali Meehan in terms of current rankings. So whilst Mansour is an option, I'm still not convinced. Number 8, Charles Martin. That fight won't be happening. Charles Martin, very, very useful southpaw prospect from the States. I've done videos on him as well. He's a guy I rate very, very highly. These two guys will be meeting later on in their careers. They're both guys with momentum, youth on their side. These are guys who are going to end up in big fights, maybe even contest titles together in the future. Not at this stage. Number 9, Francisco Pianeta. Now, I've spoken to one or two people on Twitter. I won't use your names just in case you don't want me to use them. But Pianeta is, in my opinion, having consulted with a few people, the most likely opponent here. Pianeta is a guy who used to be a sparring partner of Vladimir Klitschko. He's an Italian heavyweight. Sorry, I think he might be a German heavyweight, actually. He's got something like 30 wins, 2 losses. 2 losses have come, one stepping up. He fought Vladimir Klitschko for the world title, and he fought Ruslan Chagayev for the WBA regular belt. I think that Pianeta is at the stage now where his time at the top of the heavyweight division, or being classed as a heavyweight prospect in line for a title shot, is over. And I think based on his performance against Ruslan Chagayev, he now is very much in the area code where he could be classed as someone to blood your prospects against. You know, he's blown out in 1 round. Pianeta at his best is a solid boxer. I don't think he's Parker's level, and you have to have severe questions about his durability after his last fight. For me, this would be a big win for Parker, and it would be a move in the right direction, fighting a guy who's fought for 2 versions of the world title relatively recently. I think Pianeta's a likely option. I do. I think he'd be affordable to bring in as an opponent. I think he'd be a bigger name, and I think he would bridge the gap in class nicely. You know, Pianeta's a step up from Meehan, but not too much of a step up. You know, a manageable step up for Joseph Parker. Number 10, you've got Donovan Dennis, a guy who recently lost in the heavyweight Boxino tournament in the States. 12 wins, 2 losses. To be honest, this guy, I just don't see him having the profile, having the name recognition to be used as an opponent yet. You know, you look at him being 1 ranking away from Pianeta, a guy who's fought for the world title twice. And you have to assume Pianeta is the favourable opponent due to the name, the fact he's competed in world titles, etc. So that's BoxRec's top 10 southpaw heavyweights. In terms of the possibilities then, we're looking at Mike Perez, Amir Mansour, and Francisco Pianeta. Honestly, I think Mike Perez would be a step too far at this stage. I'm not saying Parker doesn't win the fight. I'm saying the risk reward isn't there, and I personally wouldn't take the gamble at this stage. Amir Mansour, yeah, it's a possibility. It feels like quite a large step up. You know, Mansour's been in there with some big names recently. I'm not saying Parker doesn't win again, but I just think with Mansour's recent activity and the fact he's looking for a rematch, it's less likely. I think, and I know I'm not alone in thinking this, Francesco Pianeta could be the one here. I really do. And I think that's a really good fight for Joseph Parker. I mean, Pianeta's ranked 60th on BoxRec, but I think that's slightly harsh. You know, slightly harsh. He's had some decent fights in his time. He performed with some credit when he fought Klitschko. And on his day, he's a capable operator. You know, he moves well. He's light on his feet. He's got a decent long game. I think he'd be the best opponent that Joseph Parker had ever faced. And I think it's a real nice fight for Parker at this stage. Very winnable. You probably expect him to win by knockout. But Pianeta's a good guy to add to the ledger and would move Parker up the rankings again if he was to take the win. Let me know your thoughts. Assuming it is a southpaw top 10 heavyweight, who from that list do you see it being? Let me know your thoughts on Pianeta. How do you see that fight going? Many thanks for watching. Once again, thanks to everyone who got in touch with the information. I do appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this video, do give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching.